Right, let's get some international news now. In the United States, a crucial midterm election is getting underway. The vote could see Democrats lose control of both houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. This could become the defining moment of Joe Biden's presidency, in fact. Let's get the latest from US correspondent Simon Marks in Washington, D.C. Hello, Simon. So, first of all, just tell us what's at stake here exactly and how it all works.
Yeah, it's an absolutely massive day in America. The entire House of Representatives, 1/3 of the United States Senate, and the keys to 36 governors' mansions all over the country are up for grabs today. And what this essentially means is that this is the election that is going to decide whether the Democrats continue to enjoy a razor-thin majority in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And remember, in the Senate, things are currently split 50-50. They've only got a majority because Kamala Harris, if necessary, can cast the deciding vote in her capacity as president of the Senate. She's vice president of the country, but that role doubles up as president of the Senate. If the Republicans enjoy the kind of red wave that they're hoping for here today, that will leave both of those assemblies with Republican majorities, and that will neuter Joe Biden's ability to get very much done for what he still hopes will be the remaining 2 years of only his first term in office. So there are huge stakes today and big problems potentially ahead for Joe Biden here, because the number one issue driving voters to the polls is not, as Democrats would like it to be, democracy and the threat that exists to it here, or reproductive rights and the threat that exists to those here. The number one issue driving people as they head into the polling stations today and as they've participated in early voting in their millions is the state of the economy, and fears that it is nowhere near as strong as President Biden claims. And that's potentially a problem for the Democrats.
And I would imagine that everyone who supported Donald Trump in the last election has a point to prove. Everyone who believes the lie that he actually won is going to be out in full force. What are the expectations around turnout? What's the latest on voting so far? And when are results due?
Well, it's worth making the point, Sally, that it's not just Donald Trump's supporters that have embraced the falsehood that America's elections are illegitimate and filled with fraud. More than half the Republicans seeking national office on the ballot today have embraced those conspiracy theories advanced by the former president. So that's why President Biden argues democracy is on the ballot today, and he's warning that the country will head down a path to chaos if Democrats lose in these elections. We've seen masses of early voting, more than 40 million people turning out early. Both parties read that as a sign that their supporters are galvanized and determined to show up. The reality is that the House of Representatives almost certainly is going to fall into Republican hands, but the Senate is much more evenly poised, with some key races in marginal battleground states, marginal constituencies, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin. They are razor thin, those races, and we may be entering a period of recounts and in some states possibly even runoff elections in several weeks' time. And one of the big questions here is whether the country is going to be sufficiently patient with that process at a time when Donald Trump is casting fresh aspersions on election integrity, and of course we now know is planning his own run for re-election for the presidency in 2024. A big announcement about that coming from former President Donald Trump in Florida next Tuesday.
Now, Simon, talk to us about one particular candidate who's running for Senate in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it's going to be a crucial race. It could end up being the race that determines whether Democrats or Republicans enjoy a majority in the United States Senate. His name is Mandela Barnes. He is the Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, the first African-American ever to occupy that position. That's essentially the deputy governor in Wisconsin, and he's running for the Democrats against incumbent Republican Senator Ron Johnson. Nelson, who is absolutely to the far right of the Republican Party, totally parrots Donald Trump's conspiracy theory believing viewpoints, and was somewhat supportive of the riots on Capitol Hill in January of last year that, of course, have been subject to congressional investigation over the last several months. Mandela Barnes, as his name suggests, is named after Nelson Mandela. His parents wanted to pay tribute to Madiba, and so that's his middle name. His first name is actually Jesse, but since he's been a child, he has been known as Mandela Barnes, and so there is a Mandela on the ballot in an absolutely key Senate race that's playing out today in Wisconsin, and that's one of the races that at the moment looks like it's going to be too close to call.